We can't let ourselves get caught up in the passion and anger and frustration that's going on this planet at this time, not only in the USA, but in other countries. You need to keep your vibrations above that, because negativity will drag you down to their level, and when they drag you down to the level, then there becomes disharmony in your life, and the disharmony becomes anger, and then you become anger, and it could, not will, cause the body to be dis-ease, which is dis-ease, which is a disease. I mean, we all know how stress can cause heart conditions, ulcers, high blood pressure, anxiety, all the other stuff that anxiety, anger, frustration causes. And you, above all, have to realize you don't need to be a part of that. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, which has to do with that, is your ego. So you've heard me talking about ego, E-G-O, edging God out. And you're probably wondering, how does the ego get started? And I want to refresh your memory on that and go further. Before you incarnate, most souls will visit the fetus sometime at almost the beginning of inception to sometime in the middle of the 9 months to just before or just after birth. They're kind of testing the waters. Then when they incarnate and they're in the fetus, as the baby begins to grow, it is talking to its angels and to its guardian angel, or guardian angels. And somewhere around the age of 3, the veil of forgetfulness descends upon the soul. And they kind of miss it, so they make up these imaginary things. And thoughts are things, thoughts are energy, and it begins to create an energy. And it talks to this energy, and the energy begins to grow and grow and grow. And as it grows and grows and grows, this energy, it becomes ego. First, it's very supportive. Then later on, it's no longer supportive, but wants to survive. Let's look at it this way. I knew of a person who said they can't go skiing, they're going to break a leg. So they go skiing, and they break a leg. And what they did was, I guess they hit and twisted their foot over a broken tree stump that was partially covered by snow. And if you looked at the tracks, ski tracks, they went around this area. This person went straight for it. So there's something that drew it that he created to break his leg. Fortunately, it wasn't life-threatening, a pain in the leg. And he said, see, I told you so. No, he manifested it. And what happened is that energy of manifestation, everything you think of goes out there somewhere in the ethers. And by the law of the electromagnetic energy, it is drawn into your life force energy, into your beingness, and into your life. Thoughts are things. Getting back to the ego, why do you think most people fear death? And the answer is, it's all about the ego. Because the ego knows that when you cease to exist in embodiment, it no longer exists. Your soul goes on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. The body, as one of my students called it, is affordable housing. So if you think about all this, that's why most people are afraid of death. It's the ego. And then we have the religions who say that, you're going to go to hell, you're punished, blah, 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 blah. I'm not making fun of religion. But the truth is that when you birth out of your body, your ego is no longer there. You have a life review. In the life review, anything and anyone you have ever affected, in other words, had interaction with, that you brought them pain, emotional pain, you feel it tenfold. Anything and everyone you have ever brought love, joy, happiness, healed, whatever it is, you feel it tenfold. There's no judgment. It's just a learning. It's learning like, what is a hot pot? You touch the hot pot, burn your finger. Oh, got it. That's what hot is. It's that simple. What we need to understand is that in our life, we are controlling our life, not our fearful thoughts, because that's what the ego is an expert in tuning into and bringing it up. We are always comparing the past with the present. Always. You've heard me say that before. Therefore, if I say Michelle or Kelly or Nancy or Patrick or Nas, hey, let's go out and have a hot fudge sundae. You're going to go back to when you last had one, even if it was 30 years ago or yesterday. Yep, Michael, let's do it, because you knew you liked it. So with your ego, it keeps bringing up the past. And if it wasn't successful in the past, you will know it. Or if it was self-satisfying, it will bring it up. So we all know people who, let's say, drink or smoke. They have an addiction. And that's the ego. Oh, you need to drink or smoke or whatever it is. You need to do that, need to do that, need to do that. Because it's going to help you. You'll feel better. Even if it's detrimental, it's going to feel better. The ego is self-serving. And when we look at relationships and they're over and done with, sometimes we'll feel guilty. And I will tell you, I have felt guilty in some relationships. But as I began to grow, I thank that person for being in my life, for the lessons they have taught me. Because sometimes we are the student and they are the teacher. And other times we are the teacher and they are the student. Therefore, we learn from one another. We grow from one another. We experience from one another. But if you bother to think of Thomas Alva Edison, and these, I've looked at the numbers and they bantered out anywheres, but last I read, his friend said you try to invent a light bulb 1,012 times, and 1,013 times you succeeded. And his answer was, no, I didn't fail. I just learned what worked and didn't work. And then we look at Henry Ford, who did a wonderful job in building a car for the poor average man, and he went bankrupt, and he had belief in himself. Therefore, it's really for us to understand that if we feel a block in our life, there are only two reasons. It's ego, it's not the right direction. So the next question would be, well, Michael, how do I know the difference? And the answer is, do your dream heaven, level of protection, and ask for a positive sign you can't misunderstand. And I always use that one when I was in Boston. I want to refresh your memories. And asked, should I move out to Seattle or Washington State? I want a positive sign. I was getting up on the ramp to the Southeast Distressway because it was so bad. And this car cut me off, and it had a Washington license plate. Oh, there's my sign. But if I wanted to analyze it, well, I got cut off. Oh, that must mean I shouldn't go out here, and I do all this, blah, blah, blah. That's the ego. I asked for a clear sign. I got it. Here I am. And I came out here in 1989. So I've been here a long time. But I pay attention to those messages. Because maybe it's not what I want to hear, but it's what's best for me. Before I met my second wife, I saw exactly where I would be living, the road, everything around it, the surroundings. 3 years before I met her. 3 years. And then I was doing a past life regression. She invited me up to do it, and I went, oh my God, now I know this place. I've been here before. It's very beautiful and wonderful when we ask for our signs and what we should do. And then, if we don't get what we want, then we're angry. So maybe you're supposed to stay married or divorced. Maybe you're supposed to change jobs. Maybe you're supposed to get this or that. I remember when I bought my last car, I asked for True Source Inner Guidance, and I wanted to go to one dealership, and I went to the wrong one. I went there, and, I asked for the best price, and I got a fantastic price, and it turned out to be a great car. The reason I will tell you all this stuff is I didn't argue, well, this is where the true source must want me to be, and everything worked out. But if you're running into brick walls, then you know it's your ego who you are letting control and manipulate your life to create blocks. When you are in the flow of life, it's really important that you follow the flow. Let's talk about the ego. There are two ways to handle the ego. One of the ways to handle the ego is to say, you know what? Thank you for your advice. It's really great and phenomenal. Let me get back to you. I want to finish this meditation or finish this, and I appreciate it. And you just do what you want to do. And the ego will back off and eventually forget about it. The other thing you can do is say to the ego, you know what? I want to give you a job. I want you to research how long oil will last in a car before it breaks down, or whatever it is. Something innocuous. And the ego will stop interfering with you and beginning to do the research and then bring it to your attention. Those are the two ways you need to do it. But you're probably wondering why do we have the ego to begin with? It's a good question. And the answer is because we were lonely when we lost touch with our guardian angel and angels. It's not that they ever left us or abandoned us, or our guides or master guides. They've always been there. But the veil of forgetfulness descends upon us, and our vibrations are just lowered enough so that we can't see them anymore. But they are always around you. I'd like to share one other little story. It's in my book. And I was working in New York City, living about 40 miles away in the town of Tolman, New York, which was right near Upper Saddle River in Spring Valley. Probably doesn't mean much to you. But I had to cross the Tappan Zee Bridge, which was over the Hudson River. I don't know how long it was. Maybe it was a mile, 2 miles, whatever it was. And I'm driving the car, and we had hot, humid weather, where 4 to 6 weeks or longer, and it rained, and it dried up, and it made the road very slick. And I'm driving the car, and I'm in the convertible, had the top down, and the car started fishtailing, and it's 4 lanes on each side of the bridge. So, I got let off the accelerator, kept swerving. So the next thing you do is when it happens, you pump the brake. So I pumped the brake. I started spinning. Then they say to get out of it, I'm thinking all these things logically. I'm going to hit the accelerator. Maybe that'll bring me out of the spin, because spin got worse. And I kept getting closer to the guardrail. And I don't know how high the bridge was. I'm going to say at least 500 to 800 feet higher than the river. And I said, okay, I guess if I crash through it, I'm going to sit in the car and dive out at the last minute. Yeah, that's really going to work, but, that was my ego. And then God, the true source, came in and said, hit the brake hard and just hold on to it. I said, okay. I hit the brake hard, and I spun, and I was heading right for the end of the bridge, and all of a sudden, the car stopped about a foot before I was about to go off the bridge. About a quarter of a mile away was an 18-wheeler coming down on me. So I slowly turned around, got in another lane, and pulled over after I was through the bridge, and watched my heart pound, literally watch my chest go back and forth. And I thank the God, the true source. And that's just an example of, first I was using the analytical, logical mind, which was the ego, and then I decided to fondly listen to God, the true source, which saved my life. And there are many, many other stories I could tell you. But what I really want all of you to indicate to you, to understand, is that you are divine, that you are an aspect and part of God, the true source, and that God, the true source, never, ever judge you. It's your ego that's doing it, and others around you. Because the reason you're not judged is because everything is an experience. You learn from it, like touching the hot pot, whatever it is, and you're growing from it. And then there's the law of karma, which is nothing but an experience to empower you. And I want to leave you with this thought as we're winding down. And that the one that's really in control of your life is you. Those that are supporting you in your life, not only your family, friends, which sometimes you can and can't count on, but your guides, master guides, guardian angels, your angels, the archangels, all different angels, all those that you have chosen to assist you in your lifetime. And there's always the God, the true source, who is unconditionally loving, allowing, and non-judgmental, and desires you to have love and joy and life in your life. What is occurring in your life is God, the true source, is understanding your life. So stop for a minute and think about what I said. There's your oversoul, which is part of the God, the true source, which resides in the bosom of God, the true source, which a piece of it then comes into your embodiment, which is called your human soul. Your human soul is always talking to your oversoul, which is a part of and talking to God, the true source. So figuratively speaking, God, the true source, is experiencing and understanding what you're going through. That's an oversimplification, but it's easy for all of us to understand. As we conclude this call, I want all of you to remember that I always remind you to say that I am unlimited 3 times in the mirror. But also, you are the solution that is going to change this planet and is changing this planet to go back to the wonderful Garden of Eden it once was and will be someday. You are the part that's bringing the energy, that's bringing the force and power to make it so. Everyone, have a great week.